Welcome back into the Sports Source. This segment brought to you by H&R Block, specifically Lisa Atkins and her H&R Block team out at Callahan Road in Knoxville. I told you last week, I tell you every year, Lisa does my taxes. She's done them for years. Chuck told you. Chuck, did you get yours done over there?
Yes, sir. I sure did, John.
Chuck got his done with Lisa Atkins this week. And if she can do Chuck's taxes, she can do anybody's taxes. Simple, quick, calm, friendly, calm being the operative word. Tax time is stressful enough. Lisa and her crew make it easy. Give them a shout. H&R Block, Callahan Road in Knoxville. Lisa Atkins. Tell them I sent you. All right. So who does Tennessee want to play? Who do they want to avoid in the NCAA tournament? We needed to figure out the teams they might play first of all. So we looked at these possibilities. We've got a graphic here. BracketMatrix.com looks at about 80 different projections, and they weight it and they figure out what the general consensus is. They show that most people have Tennessee as an 11 seed. What we've done here at the Sports Source, we're grading them between a 9 and a 12 seed. 9 would be awfully high, but you never know. You never know with the selection committee. Like they got a 2 seed the first year under Pearl. They got that 6 seed. Of course, we did know that. But 9 through 12 is where we're putting them. That means your possible foes would be 5, 6, 7, and 8 seeds. All right. Now, I've also thrown in some 11 and 12 seeds just in case Tennessee gets stuck in one of those silly play-in games. There are 2 that are 16s playing against each other, and there are 2 that are either 11-11 or 12-12, which is kind of nonsense. But anyway, that gives us 39 teams to look at, and here's hoping if Tennessee gets in, it's not Team 40 that winds up on the line. Let's take a look over at the big board where Chuck stands. There you see the numbers for the 39 teams, some of these bubble teams. What you've got, starting with Louisville, those are the higher seeds on down through Kansas State. From Stanford and then back up to St. Joe's and on through Florida State, those are teams Tennessee would probably play if they're in an 11-12 game, if they're stuck in those games. You see, the higher the number, the redder the number, the worse the matchup, okay? The green, the lower the number, the better the matchup. This is going back to what we talked about in that last segment, that 17-1, 3-11 number we showed you. Chuck, I want you to write down, while we're talking over here, I want you to write down the best numbers for Tennessee and the worst matchups for Tennessee.
Okay.
All right, we'll get into this. Now, you see those numbers. New Mexico, Pitt, Stanford, those are all 6s teams you don't want. Michigan State, Ohio State, UConn, UCLA, Baylor, St. Joe's, Florida State, all 5s, very bad draws on paper. Any of those stand out to you for any reasons? Mark, I know you've scoured these teams.
Well, I think Michigan State is one that you don't want. The numbers play that out just because of their aggressive style. They're a really good team. Oklahoma, that's who actually ESPN has us picked right now to play.
And that's a good matchup.
That is a good matchup. I think that would be one that we'd be excited about, being able to dictate tempo and allow our size to take advantage of their smaller big guys.
Jimmy, one of the teams on our wall over there, I had to put them on there because you never know with the tournament committee what they might do. But Xavier is in that mix. I can't imagine they would put Tennessee and Xavier together for a third time. But do you think there's any chance of that?
I doubt it. You would think there are too many teams out there to where you don't have to put that matchup together. So I doubt they would put Tennessee and Xavier together.
Any of these games, potential matchups, stand out to you for any reasons? In terms of, like Ohio State. I wonder if Vol fans would like to get a shot at Aaron Kraft.
Oh yeah, I think they
dad.
would like to get a shot, and they would hope that he would play like he did on that last shot where it slipped out of his hands when he was trying to hit that 3. The one that surprises me as far as a there are a couple of them. One is New Mexico. I don't think of them as being a really, really difficult matchup. Florida State at a 5 surprises me.
They're big.
That would be that big of a well, they got a big inside guy too. I've seen them play, and I haven't run all the numbers like you did, but Florida State at a 5 being one of the most difficult teams surprises me a little bit.
Well, I mean, you got to remember, Texas A&M was a bad matchup if you look through this formula. I mean, it nailed all of them except the Vanderbilt loss. So some of those, like UTEP, was a bad matchup. And if you just looked at UTEP and gave them the eyeball test, you wouldn't say, Tennessee will struggle with that. But numerically, bad matchup. Bob, you mentioned in between segments you'd like to see Tennessee get VCU.
Yeah, because back when Cuonzo Martin was hired, Shaka Smart would have been a home run hire for Tennessee just because of what he had done at that time, and I think that would just make it more interesting. I look at this stuff, and a lot of these teams, obviously, I have not seen dribble the basketball one time this year. So what I'm looking for is something like Ohio State that makes it interesting from a fan perspective. And I think Shaka Smart would be one of those games that would make it interesting for Tennessee.
Chuck, tell people who the biggest wants, these are the teams that were 2s, and the biggest don't wants, these are teams at 6s. Tell folks who they were.
Biggest wants, VCU, St. Louis, Texas, Southern Miss. The teams you don't want, New Mexico, Pitt, and Stanford.
Okay. Those are the definites. What are your thoughts? Any of those games stand out to you that you'd like to see Tennessee draw?
Oh, I'd love to see North Carolina on this list. That'd be a great game. What about Memphis? Tennessee and Memphis. And watch out for this Dayton. If you have a play-in game, it could be Dayton at Dayton. And I don't understand how they can do that.
I would think surely the committee would steer clear of that if they could, rather than give somebody a home court advantage. But who knows if they're trying to sell tickets. Mark, I'll let you finish up with thoughts on this stuff. Any teams?
Some of the other teams that I think are going to be in our area as far as seeding with Providence, and they're coming off a championship run last night. Tobias's younger brother actually plays for them, starting forward. Baylor has been playing better basketball, and Oklahoma State, I think we got to mention them just so Marcus Smart doesn't come punch us, but they're playing really well recently. And again, I think if we can dictate tempos like your numbers play out, and we get that favorable matchup, I think this team's going to, whoever they play, the way they're playing, going to win first-round game.
Now, I'll just say this. That's 39 teams. That's a lot of math. I was up to 3 a.m. doing this stuff. Somebody's got to play Mr. Rogers and actually cut that nonsense out. But Tulsa isn't on that list. You watch. Tennessee will draw Tulsa in the first round. We will be tweeting, meaning I will be tweeting, and you can follow us on Twitter at SportsSourceTV. We'll be tweeting the same information. So if you didn't write it all down, we'll put it out on Twitter this afternoon. We'll tweet throughout the selection show and afterwards to tell you how it matches up. But just one last note here, I'll tell you. The bad matchups, New Mexico, Pittsburgh, and Stanford. Worst possible matchups on paper. Michigan State, Ohio State, UConn, UCLA, Baylor, St. Joseph's, Florida State were all 5s. Again, 3-11 against these types of teams in the regular season. So on paper, not good matchups. Good matchups, Tennessee 17-1 against these types of teams in the regular season. North Carolina, Oklahoma, UMass, Oregon, George Washington, Memphis. Let's go ahead and show the wall over here. Memphis, Colorado, Kansas State, Arizona State, SMU, Nebraska, Toledo, Minnesota, all favorable. VCU, St. Louis, Texas, and Southern Miss, all the best possible draws on paper. All right, when we come back, we've still got to talk about some Bruce Pearl rumors. The Auburn stuff is heating up. We've got to make our predictions for where Tennessee gets in, whether they get in, what seed they get. But next, we're going to talk a little bit of spring football just for a second. Come on back on the Sports Source.
You are watching East Tennessee's first and only year-round sports talk show on television.